Hello everybody and welcome back to Dollar Tree Dinners. Today is Monday, therefore it is Make Ahead Monday. Today we're doing some meal prepping that is minimal effort, zero cooking, and no reheating required. Michael and I participate in various events throughout the year, and these events are usually very long days with no access to electricity. And I like to pack our food in advance so that we can save money and not have to order food at the event, which can be very expensive. So over the past few years of doing this, I have a routine that I've kind of settled in and some go-to meals that I always make. So while these meal preps are specific to our situation, the fact that they are no cook, minimal effort means that they are very accessible. In this video, I'm only going to be prepping for one day because we only have a one-day event this week, but any of these can be sized up, and we'll talk about shelf life of some of these things and how far in advance you can prep them, but let's go ahead and jump right in. Our event tomorrow starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it is an hour and a half away, plus we need time for setup when we get there. So our breakfast needs to be something grab and go. And my favorite grab and go, no cook breakfast option is a simple fruit and yogurt parfait. I very simply like to put a layer of frozen fruit in the bottom of some kind of a jar. These are 8-ounce, like little mason jars. And frozen fruit is particularly good in this situation, not only because it keeps for a very long time, but also because as it thaws in your fridge, it'll kind of create its own sauce for the parfait. And then for yogurt today, I am using some vanilla Greek yogurt. I've actually had this in my fridge for quite some time now, but I usually like to use a thicker yogurt, like a Greek yogurt, for these. Now again, as this fruit at the bottom starts to thaw, it'll create its own like little sauce, which will give the yogurt a wonderful texture and flavor. And I like to store the granola completely separate from the parfait so it doesn't get stale or soggy. And I'll just store it in another jar off to the side. That way when we get to our event, we can just throw some granola on top and our breakfast is ready to go. So these fruit and yogurt parfaits are perfect for make ahead, but I would not make them more than 2 or 3 days in advance. So if you're a single person, you could prep about 3 of them at a time. If you're a couple, like he and I, then you could prep about 6 at a time, but they're just not as good after 3 days. So I'm prepping them today to eat them tomorrow, and by tomorrow, this fruit should be well thawed in the bottom. The second thing I always prep are adult Lunchables. I mean, they're just Lunchables, but I call them adult Lunchables because they're a significantly larger portion than the pre-packaged Lunchables you usually buy. And our kind of go-to adult Lunchables are the meat, cheese, and cracker variety. That's what I always prep for every event that we do. And I like to use these little 2-compartment containers for those. Now the first tip I'm going to give you for preparing these Lunchables in advance is to buy crackers that come individually sleeved like these. I see them by Club and I see them by Ritz, but you typically won't find them very often in store brands. These will allow you to make them in advance without the crackers getting stale or soggy. Alternatively, you can just package the crackers in some kind of a Ziploc bag, like a snack bag. But what I don't recommend is putting just raw crackers, for lack of a better term, raw crackers in the container because they will get stale in your fridge. Another thing I need to do is count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 17, 18. There's 18 crackers in this sleeve. So that's about how many pieces of cheese I need to have 1 piece per cracker. Michael and I each have our own preference when it comes to these Lunchables. His is almost always turkey and cheddar, and mine is almost always pepperoni and pepper jack. So I'm going to take 5 slices of cheddar cheese. And quite simply, I'm just going to cut them into quarters. And I know that's gonna bug some of you guys that have a square piece of cheese and a rectangular cracker, but I've done this for almost every event and we have no issues with the square cheese on the rectangular cracker. But there is our stack of cheese. Let's take off 2. So there is our 18 pieces of cheese, and that will go in our snack container. I am gonna do the same thing with mine, which I prefer pepper jack. Pepper jack is my favorite cheese. And there we go. I have my pepper jack cheese to go with my crackers. Now moving on to the meat portion. I know that there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but I'll just show you how I usually do it, which is I buy just your standard deli meat. I don't bother with a thick cut variety or anything like that. And all I do is I take each individual slice and I fold it into a little triangle, fold it into quarters. So for his, when it comes to deli meat, these are quite thick. So I can usually only fit about 9 pieces in his, but that's okay because he can make like a little sandwich doing like 2 crackers, 2 pieces of cheese, 1 piece of turkey. I think that's how he usually does it anyways. Or what you can really do is just kind of fold these in half and then just cut them so that you have these kind of like little half triangles. And then you'll have one for every cracker. So mine is even easier because I do pepperoni. So I do 2 pepperoni per cracker. So I've counted out 36 of them. And as you can see, that is the perfect amount to coordinate with that amount of cheese and crackers. And now we just have to fill in this little gap here. And usually I just like to fill it in with something snacky. In this case, I'm gonna do some baby carrots. And then going along with the Lunchable theme, I always try to include some kind of a little sweet treat. I'm gonna do a fast break in his and a payday in mine. I can't do plain carrots, so I like to include a little cup of ranch, so I have something to dip those carrots in. Little strategic reorganizing there, and you should be able to fit the ranch in the container. Perfect. If you were doing apples or something, then this cup of ranch might be a cup of peanut butter or something to that degree. So feel free to change out these ingredients based on your preferences, but I'm just giving you the idea, the concept. And then customize it to whatever's on sale or whatever you already have. As far as prepping those Lunchables, you can prep them up to a week in advance. There's nothing in that other than the fruit or the vegetable that's potentially going to go bad. But generally things like baby carrots and grapes, those are gonna hold up in the fridge pretty well. If you put apple slices in it, you might wanna only prep those like 2 to 3 days in advance so they don't start to brown or get mushy. But again, you can prep those up to a week in advance depending on what you put in it. And the third thing I like to pack for every one of these events that we attend is some kind of a sandwich. Usually some kind of a salad sandwich. Egg salad, tuna salad, chicken salad, crab salad. Today I'm gonna be making a chicken salad. And considering this is a no-cook meal prep, I suggest getting either canned chicken or rotisserie chicken. This is actually a rotisserie chicken that I bought the other day and just shredded up. And that is what we're gonna be using for our chicken salad. I don't really have any measurements for this when it comes to making salads. I just kind of add, taste, and adjust. But I have about, I wanna say 2 cups of shredded chicken, maybe 2.5. And this was basically just all of the white meat from my rotisserie chicken. No measurements here, just a couple of good spoonfuls of mayonnaise. Season that up with salt and pepper, as much or as little as you like. Okay. And that is a basic, just kind of starter chicken salad. I actually really like chicken salad just this way, but I'm gonna add some extra things into this. So for extras, we're gonna go with some finely minced onion, not a lot. You don't wanna overpower this, but you do wanna just give it a little bit of bite. I have some chopped walnuts, so I'm gonna throw in a couple handfuls of that, and also some cranberries. And then the last thing I'm gonna toss in there is about an equal amount of peeled and diced apple. Now the only things that you are gonna potentially have to chop are the apples. As far as the onion, you can buy pre-minced onion in the grocery store, or you can buy the dehydrated minced onion. Either one of those will work great in this application. But if you want to make this recipe exactly as I'm making it today, you will have to peel and dice the apple. But that's why I said minimal effort and not zero effort. And now you can store this salad fully prepared and in the fridge. And then that way, whenever you want to make a sandwich, you can just toss it on your bread or toast. I really like this on toast. And this will also keep really well. I'd say it will keep for about 5 to 6 days in your fridge. Since we're attending our event tomorrow and I need these to be grab and go, they're only going to be in the fridge overnight in my case, so I'm going to go ahead and pre-prepare the sandwiches. For prepared sandwiches, you might only want to prep them like a day or two in advance. And personally, I think hamburger buns are the best way to prep them in advance because they're going to hold up the best without getting soggy like sandwich bread would. And we're going to go on there with a good scoop of our cranberry apple chicken salad. And then I'm just gonna pop the sandwiches in a container just so they don't get smushed in our lunchbox tomorrow. One thing that comes up from time to time when I share these no reheat meal options is how do you keep them chilled? And the simple answer to that is an insulated lunchbox and some ice packs, because no reheat does not necessarily mean no fridge. And sometimes I've noticed in the comments that that can get a little bit mixed up. So by no reheat, I mean you do not need to have access to a microwave, but if you also don't have access to a fridge, like in our case tomorrow, you are gonna need some way to keep this cold so it doesn't spoil before you get a chance to eat it. So I have quite a large lunchbox here because I need enough food and drinks for 2 people over the course of between 10 to 12 hours. I'm already going ahead and putting like spoons for the parfaits. I'm also gonna throw in a couple of like napkins or paper towels just to keep things neat. So I will kind of layer ice packs throughout this lunchbox as I put the food in there. And I'll also be including some cold drinks like sodas or energy drinks, things from out of our fridge, which will help to keep things chilled as well. So tomorrow should go smooth sailing with all of the things that I've packed. And again, this is a process that I've kind of honed in on over the past couple of years. These are our go-tos. If you guys have any go-to cold breakfast or cold lunches, let me know in the comments down below. I know overnight oats are really common, but both he and I are not really oatmeal people. I have other Lunchables that I make sometimes too, like I do make the pizza Lunchables, and then of course you have your standard like cold deli sandwiches. Salads don't really make me feel full or satisfied. Wraps are a little bit better. Oftentimes I'll just take a salad and make a wrap out of it just to make it more filling. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. Fairly well practiced at this, so everything that I do is intentional to make sure that the food is good whenever we do go to eat it. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I will see you again tomorrow for $10 Tuesday.